Photo of the Month, a street photography series by Bryan. The story behind the photo.
What's going on, people? I'm super excited to be introducing a brand new video series to the channel, Photo of the Month. In this series, I'm going to be featuring some of my favorite photos and the stories behind them. I'll also be covering everything from what gear I use to shooting digital versus film, plus the ups and downs of shooting street photography. Okay, so this is literally one of the first photos I ever took with my Leica Q2 back in 2019. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to shoot on the street. At first, I tried to get a candid shot, but it wasn't really working out. So I decided to try something that I was pretty scared of, and I feel like most street photographers are scared of this, but I actually tried to approach someone and ask if I could take their photo. Now, I don't even know why I was so scared, but at the end of the day, I had to get over that fear, and I just went up and talked to this older gentleman. And within a few seconds, we struck up a conversation, and before you knew it, I was able to get a portrait. Anyways, like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing because this was one of the first times on the street. So I was kind of learning on the fly and figuring things out as I go. But my focal length was a fixed 28mm Summilux 1.7, which I've now come to learn is arguably one of the best focal lengths for street photography, but not necessarily for street portraits. So this image in particular, I had to crop in just a little bit. And you can still notice there's extra space on top of the image. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a perfect portrait, but it does include the environment, which I think helps tell the rest of the story. A few other key facts is that I was at f/16 and my shutter speed was at 1/500th of a second. Once again, that just kind of shows you that I didn't fully understand what I was doing. This portrait may have come out better if I was shooting somewhere between f4 and maybe f5.6, and my shutter speed definitely wouldn't need to be at 1/500th of a second. I probably could have brought that down to anywhere between 1/125th and 250 at the max. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but I was adding layers and depth to this photo just by shooting through the glass of the bus shelter. I also didn't know that I was creating a subframe by positioning the older man in between the leftover poster glue that was on the window, giving that kind of unique texture. That weathered look also complemented the older man's deep lines in his face and the wrinkles, and I think ultimately all of that became part of a stronger version of the story. Now, when I'm shooting digital, there is the option to take a look at what you're shooting while you're on the street. But in all honesty, I love shooting film so much that I've kind of adopted the way that I shoot digital similar to how I shoot film. So I try not to look at the images while I'm out on the street. But sometimes you don't really know what you've got until you get home. And for me, this image was one of those striking images where at the moment of taking it, I didn't fully understand how important it was to me. But it's an image that I used to actually include in my first solo exhibit. In 2020, I launched my first photo exhibit entitled Walk On By, and it highlighted how we as a society are so wrapped up in getting from point A to point B that we just walk on by so many incredible moments in life. So for the show, I ended up building out a huge installation piece to replicate the wood panels you see on the street with all the ads and the posters on them. I was really just trying to bring an element of the street to the gallery and use posters as a way of showing my photography. So the goal was to replace those ads that we're so used to seeing with a powerful image that would give the viewer no option but to stop and stare. Alright, so that wraps up my first episode of Photo of the Month. Hopefully you learned something by me providing a few of the insights and the stories behind the photo. And I'm looking forward to sharing more photos each and every month for the rest of the year. So tune in for next month, and I'll see you then.